Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the cloud and streaming stage. We now have a presentation that I have really been looking forward to because we have Justina Sabiene here and Josefine Boqvist, and they are heads of data science, Lithuania, and heads of analytics and IT at Telia, which is a huge business, much bigger than I thought. I've just learned on backstage. So the two of them are going to be talking to us today about Telia's journey to modernizing the data platform and accelerating the business with insights. So over to the two of you to take us away with your presentation.
Thank you so much, Jonas. We're excited to be here. And I'm thinking that I wanted to start just by reflecting a little bit on everything that's not going so well right now. So it seems like right now, I just feel like everything is going wrong. Just recently this week, we had an enormous amount of snow in Sweden where I'm located. I could hardly get to work. There is climate crisis, there is inflation, there is war. There just seems like everything is moving in the wrong direction. But that is actually not true because there are some things that are going really, really well. And I don't know if you know this person. You might not. His name is Gordon Moore, and he was one of the co-founders at Intel. And he created something that has become known as Moore's Law. And it's actually been a correlation that has been true since the 1960s. And that is that the kind of processing capacity within computing, it doubles every second year, and the cost then kind of relatively decreases. And this is amazing, right? Because think about it, technology just gets smaller and faster all the time, but it also gets cheaper. So if you haven't thought about this before and you think things are not going well, do think about Moore's Law. It's kind of the opposite of Murphy's Law. It's kind of everything gone right. And of course, this is behind some of the amazing things that we are experiencing right now within data, within analytics, and the kind of evolution of technology, which is amazing. And there's more amazing technology as well. I just brought some very ugly pictures here, but I think some of them are really cool. And the top one is something that kind of doesn't exist, but it kind of exists soon as well, because it's actually a space elevator. And for those of you that are into kind of sci-fi, you know that space elevators have been in the kind of literature for, 50 plus years, and everybody's been laughing about them. But it's time to kind of stop laughing right now, because the first space elevators are being built. They're still super small, very small distance, but they are they're being built right now. There's a company in Japan, I think, that has constructed the first. The other one is something that is very closely related to the industry that I'm working in telecommunication, which is the Elon Musk Starlink project, which is, of course, amazing satellite connectivity across the world. Also an example of some amazing technology out there. But then again, when you think about kind of success and what makes you successful in life, and when you've been very successful, you rarely think about technology, or at least I don't. I tend to think about a lot of other things. And actually, when I think about what the most important things have been, they have been other things. So that's a little bit what we're going to talk about today. There might be some technology, or there is some technology in there for sure as well. But we also want to talk about other things. Like when we think about Telia and future-proofing our analytics and really getting this right, and what has made us successful or unsuccessful in many cases, it will not just be about technology. So to introduce a little bit more who we are, I will start with myself. So my name is Josefine, and I work at Telia then, and my role is that I am head of analytics IT, which means that I'm responsible for all of our architecture, all of our infrastructure and our platforms across our 6 markets. And I've been in the telecom industry for the past 15 years, and specifically within the analytics domain the past 6-7 years. And prior to Telia, I've also spent time in Ericsson and in Accenture. And one of my wonderful colleagues and co-presenters here is Justina. Justina, you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Justina. So I'm from Lithuania. I'm leading data science team here in Lithuania. And our main objective is to support our business to drive data-driven decisions and help them to solve problems. My own experience starts with studying math, statistics, econometrics a while ago, and for the last 10 years, I've been working with different companies and different clients, and all of them, they've been looking how they can understand their customers better. What do they need to do to propose better products for them, to serve them better? So myself and the different teams, I've been helping them to understand this, how they can leverage data to do that. And here at Telia, the team and wider data team, we're trying to do exactly this, to make sure that we serve our customers in the best possible way, and we want to use data to do that.
Thank you. So we are going to be your host here today. And just to tell you a little bit more about Telia then. So Telia is one of the leading telecom communication providers in the Baltics and the Nordics, and we serve 23 million customers then across 6 different markets. And if we narrow this down a little bit more to what does that mean from an analytics perspective, is that we run more than 3 million queries on an average every day. We have around 350 analytics experts then working specifically within our analytics units. And we are actually getting close to 5,000 active click users. So the active business users that are kind of consuming our data in the click dashboards. And we've also built across our 6 markets more than 100 kind of common analytical products that are leveraging data from all of our different markets in this. So that's just a little bit more of context on where Justina and I spend our everyday lives then. But I wanted to move back to kind of this snowy feeling that I had beginning of this week. I don't know if did you have any snow in Lithuania, Justina, as well?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, wouldn't it be like much nicer if we were here instead?
For sure.
Yeah. And I think if we would have had like, I don't know, 10 euros or $10 or 100 Swedish kroners for every time that we would have started our projects with technology first, like starting from a technology perspective, we could have been here, because that's how often we kind of get caught up in solutioning without thinking about why are we doing this. Because also going back to the technology, there's so much amazing technology. There's so many amazing things to use, advanced analytics, etc. But the question is really like, why are you doing it? And I think that really brings us into like the strategy first. It's really important, and I think it's one of the key lessons learned that I've had in my career. It's to really understand what it is that you want to achieve, because otherwise you're going to end up spending a lot of money and not really getting what you wanted, because you didn't really know what you were looking for in the first place. And I think if I reflect from my perspective on how I'm working with that, so I mean, I work with them providing the technology and the platforms. I work in a very, very structured way to secure that everything that I do is connected to the country roadmaps. So one of my most important customers is Justina. So whatever Justina wants to do, that's what I'm providing capabilities for. And I make sure that I steer all of the development that the architects in our team does. We steer that according to those priorities to make sure that that works. So we have a backlog where we kind of map everything and steer it so that it's value driven completely. And then I'm going to hand over to you, Justina, because I mean, you are one of my most important stakeholders. You know, what is your strategy? What is important for you guys in Lithuania? How do we, what is analytics for you?
Sure. So Telia as a company is on a mission to implement customer-centric view. So Lithuania is doing exactly the same, and we want to do that in all possible areas, starting from user experience, finishing using data to drive insights and serve our customers better. So what does it mean, customer first? We are a product and services company. For years, we've been selling products and services and always thinking to whom we can sell this other iPhone, or maybe where we can find new customer to subscribe for our broadband. But now what we want to do, we want to start thinking about our customers, what our customers actually need, what things they want to have, and how as a telecommunication company we can address those needs and make sure that they're happy and see us as a partner, not as a company who tries to push something what they don't want. What does it mean in practice? Here we have our customer Aldita. She's been our customer for 30 years. And now we're thinking what she potentially needs or what we should suggest to her, and maybe what's the best plan or service for her over the next couple of years. How we can know this? So we know her customer profile. We know that she is a mobile phone user. She has a feature phone. Occasionally she browses, she uses broadband. She's browsing on the internet. We also know that her contract ends relatively soon, and that recently she was looking into 5G phones on our website. So question is, what she is looking for, what we can propose to her next. If we don't think about our customers first, we might say, okay, we just launched our new TV service and maybe she is in the right target audience and we should propose her new TV and propose her new TV subscription so she can watch her favorite soap operas, potentially. But when we look at our customer profile, when we look at the way she behaves, actually, she chooses new iPhone and she chooses a phone upgrade with a lot of gigabytes. Why? Because she wants to talk with her grandson over the phone from whenever she likes it. And that's what we want to make sure, that thinking about our customers, we think about them not as a whole, but we look at them, at each of them individually. We look at our almost 1 million customers in Lithuania here. We look what services they have. We'll look how they interact with them, and they really like calling us and going to our shops, and what they watch. And they watch a lot. If we combine over the 1 month how much content they watch, it's almost 5,000 years in 1 month. It's a lot. So how do we then serve our customers who are quite different? They want to be, all of them, they want to be attended, and we as a Telia want to make sure that they get what they need. And here it comes, the idea. Thinking about the strategy as a business, we want to make sure that our customers comes first and having loads of data. So what we thought that actually it's a great idea for the project to look into our data sets, to look what we have, understand our customers, and find the right products for them, which serves their needs based on the way what they have already and the way they behave. So that makes them happy. So they say, okay, I totally understand me. They know what they need and I can trust them. That also helps our colleagues in the Telia as such, because then we can support them with information about customer and make sure that they have timely information about our customers and what's happening with them. So then when they're talking them and interacting, they can pinpoint to the right pain point to them and help and solve it. And finally, for Telia as a company, it's quite good because then we can be a trusted partner for our customers, and that's also quite nice. So that's quite a lot.
And I think this is so interesting, Justina, because this whole journey that we have embarked on around the customer centricity, I think the starting point was very rough segmentation, assuming that everybody in the same age group were interested in the same things. And of course, we take lots of, we are, of course, very cautious of how we can use data and connect it to the consents that we have from our customers, etc. But when it is allowed and when the customers have allowed for it, we want to make sure that their customer experience is as good as possible. So I think that really being able to tailor this is so important for us. So it's such an important part of our strategy. So very interesting, but it's kind of hard. I mean, we have a long way to go here. It's kind of where do you start? And I actually have in my cupboard at home, I have this secret sauce that I use, and I always use it, like for every meal that I eat. I always use it. Do you know what it is, Justina?
I might have a hunch.
You want to have a guess?
Potentially, yes. People?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And we were talking about that as well. It's really like when you think about things that have worked, things that have not worked, going back to, it's very seldom that I reflect on things like, we set up such a great KPI, or that I think back of, just because of that platform it was so successful, or things like that. It's always like you're in a group, in a team, and it's about like it was the people that made it work. Like if and people can make bad tools work as well, and poor processes, mitigate that. So it is really about people, and we spend a lot of time in Telia with upskilling and training, and focusing on developing and building our teams and our people. So over to you here, Justina. I mean, how is this from your perspective? How do you work in Lithuania with people?
Yes, I completely agree that people are first thinking about the projects, thinking about our customers, the projects which we want to do. So we want to we need expertise in different areas to make sure that it works well. So probably no news to you that to create data product, we need expertise in different areas: data, business, and technical expertise. And usually these people are called unicorns, but we don't know that they don't exist, or it's very rare. So what we like to do in Telia, we like to create superhero teams. We look for people who are experts in different areas, and then we bring them together and try to solve projects in that way. So in this example, when thinking about the project, when we wanted to serve our customers best, the different offers and all those good things, we looked for someone who knows our data quite well, so is an expert in this area and seen all the changes and knows all the history what happened. We looked for someone who is quite good understanding the business, how our customer behaves, and also have strong technical background, so then we can kind of link it together. And finally, we looked within the academia to find someone who can bring innovation into all the mix, and then we can put together this superhero team to solve our data questions and serve customers.
I love that. I think that's so wonderful. And that is really true, right? It's hard to find the unicorn, so we need to build superhero teams then. But then even with, I mean, we've talked about strategy first, we've talked about great people, we still make lots of mistakes, right? It's inevitable to make mistakes. And I think that we've spent a lot of time, I've spent a lot of time during the past years when we've built up our new tech stack and when we've done our cloud journey to think about making better mistakes, because we know that we're going to make them. We've all made them, but how do you make better mistakes? And I think it's really, from our perspective, I don't know if you've heard this approach about the one-way and the two-way door. So one-way door decisions are decisions that you can't go back on, while two-way door decisions are kind of decisions where you can walk back and forth. And the idea is really to make sure that you try to classify as many as possible of your decisions as two-way door decisions, so you can kind of walk back and forth. So the key here is that you're going to fall, right? So you need to fall fabulously, like this person here. It's like a very graceful falling pattern that I don't think I've seen in real life, but that's really the thinking here. So translating that into Lithuania, Justina, what does that mean for you?
Where I really actually like this idea, and especially like the idea going back and forth between different decisions and making small mistakes. That means you allow yourself to experiment, to do different things, and then that's how you evolve. How do we do that? So we took a very pragmatic approach to this. We have data on one side, we have our customer on the other side. So we need to find a way how we connect it. So we thought about a couple of guiding principles, how we can do that. So the first one is use case based. We know our customers, we know a couple of their problems. Let's try to solve it and see what we need to do that. Then second one, when we know the problem customer faces, we bring people together and try to break down into smaller pieces, so then we can share the work between different teams locally and even globally. Moving forward, that allows us to develop iterative approach. That means we have a lot of different pieces. We develop one of them a little bit, and at the end we see, does it work? Does it do what we intended to do? Is customer happy? We collect feedback and see if it's worth to improve one on the other bit and then move it forward. So that enables us quick development and iteration for the data products. Now to the practice. So the first one, we are data people, we like checklist structure and so on. So I will share a couple of things from that side. So here, how we approach defining the use cases, we try to, first of all, to define the problem. So we think from the business perspective, from the customer, from the strategy, what do we want to do? What do we want to solve? And once we solve it, how the solution would look. In this case, it's easy. We have a customer. We want to make sure that we provide the right, provide information about the service, which customer needs at that point in time for the price they're willing to pay. Something like this. It's easy. And then once we have this, we want to also understand the impact. So how many customers it is, and calculate all those good things. So once we have a problem scoped and defined, we move into solutioning stage, where we bring together our experts in one room, brainstorm how it can be done, and we try to think about a couple of aspects. First of all, have we done this in the past? So reaching out to the other markets within Telia to see how it's done. Do we have right data sources for this? Do we have technological solution? Can we borrow technological solution from the other countries? Do we have right integrations? Do we have resources required? In general, how large project it is? Once we go through these questions, we end up with somewhat as scatter plot, as a checklist, which allows us then to prioritize. And the way we prioritize, we tend to choose something what is high value but not the highest, and what is difficult but not the most difficult, because then we allow ourselves to kind of plan, test it out, and then move to more complicated use cases later on. Okay, so we have a business problem. So how do we actually connect problem which we want to solve and the customer to help them to go through this path? What are the steps? Here, it's very, very important to understand the business process in general and try to map it out. What are the steps from a problem to the data, infrastructure, and so on until the insight reaches our customer? So the first building blocks, of course, is data products. So it would be data sources, the modeling part, all the math and stats. That's where myself, as a data science, like to spend most of the time. But to do this, we need data. So make sure that we have data warehouses, all good connections, all the GDPR concerns, all those good things are in place. We need infrastructure, stable infrastructure, which allows us to experiment, play, and develop new use cases. We also need a way which would allow to connect what we build within the data side algorithms with our customer and how customer can access our insights. And here we have two things how we can do that. The first one is communication channels. Example would be we can send an email, maybe SMS, or show the mass television ad to the customer, and that's how we can nudge them to go to Telia and choose one or the other service. And the more relevant nudging would be, so what they need, the more likely customers will be going to our point of sales channels. And here we have our retail stores, we have our call centers, and in those we want to make sure that if we send an email communicating certain offer, that our colleagues also sees the same email, we sees the same offer, and then can chat through our customer about more details about it. So when all this is set up, our customer is happy, so they buy the service, or in the good case scenario. So we want to collect feedback back to our data product place, where then can we analyze, understand better what works, what not, and move forward. So that's how we end up with kind of a blueprint, a plan, how we want to approach and solve our customer problems through data. Now we have broken down this one in somewhat manageable pieces and different elements. We can share the different teams and they can move forward the solution. And for all this, of course, technology and infrastructure is quite important to make sure that it works. Josefine, will you share more about it?
Yeah, because now I can't help myself, and I kind of introduced this presentation by saying that technology is not important, but then of course technology is important, right? If you were in a crisis, in a war somewhere, and you got the opportunity to connect to the Elon Link Starlink project, or if you had this phone, I don't even know if that counts as technology, actually, this little phone, but of course, technology is important. And as Justina, you're the expert on the data scientist side. I'm the one who likes to live in the world of technology. So I just wanted to share a little bit from where I stand working with our data journey, some of the most important trends that I see. And I would start by saying that the number one is, of course, the public cloud. And I think that is a revolution to us in able to deliver fast, experiment, and just it has been revolutionary for us. It is fantastic. On the same side, we are also, of course, related to GDPR and the type of data that we manage in large telecommunication provider companies. We cannot put all of our data in the public clouds. So we are also working a lot in parallel with building what we say are hybrid solutions to this, which means that we can kind of seamlessly leverage the same type of technology, but in other environments where we can keep it away from, for example, the American authorities, etc. So it's been very much for us. It's been going on the cloud journey, enabling those capabilities, but also in parallel building robust, kind of scalable private cloud solutions ourselves. And since we are kind of 6 bigger markets, we can also leverage that across our markets as well. And then, of course, it's very much about reusability, and because that is something that also enables much more speed for us. And this is where we start also seeing the use of APIs and kind of more on-demand consumption of data, because that was also something that you talked about, Justina. I mean, the importance of the accessibility of the data when it's needed. Then a trend that is connecting in so many ways is around the automation. It's really about automate, automate, automate. And there's much more potential for automation than any company is imagining right now, I think, in the future. So that is something that we are working a lot, both to incentivize, because there is this kind of like, how much do we automate until my job is gone as well, right? I read this really interesting article about, maybe if you would incentivize your organization to say, like, if you help us completely automate the organization, we give you salary for 10 years. I don't know, that could be something, right?
Yeah, I would sign up for this.
Exactly. I would also be kind of more interested in automating my job away then. Then going back to the security and privacy, the type of data that we have within the large telecommunication providers and the sensitivity of exposing some of our services, I think shut off your phone for one day or put it in flight mode and see how that works out for you. You'll see how extremely dependent society is on connectivity right now. Then we actually, and this is something that relates in a little bit to our hiring and how we work as a company, we tend to favor open source quite a lot because we want to invest more in people than in kind of lock-in vendor technology as well. So we are, I think from that perspective, a very interesting company to work for because we do a lot of investment into our people there. Then I think a trend that nobody has that works a lot in technology is more around these lake houses and enabling the unified accesses. That is also something that we are working a lot with. It's really combining both the brain and the muscle powers of the data warehouses and the data lakes together. So that is also something that we are enabling with our new stack and that we are working a lot with. But last but not least is very much related to the fact that we make mistakes all the time, right? And technology is moving so fast right now, and it's very difficult to know what's going to work, what's not going to work. So we build and cater very much for kind of an evolutionary architecture. So that's very much related, again, into building containerized kind of microservices and trying decoupling the things that we're doing so that we can change things without having to change everything. So these are just some of the underlying technology trends that I think are some of the most important ones, at least for building an analytics best-in-class solution right now.
Completely agree. And I have a couple other aspects to share more from the data science perspective. So what do we as a data scientist, what do we need in order to be able to work? And the way I like to think, we need here in Lithuania, we are focusing at solving very particular business or client problems. And we want to make sure that we can spend as much time on focusing on this and leaving infrastructure, all the technological setup for the Telia group, Josefine team, and the rest to do that. So the way we look at this, we look for the infrastructure as a service. And there are a couple of requirements from that perspective. First of all, we want to get data science platform where we can do rapid experimentation with different we have a lot of ideas. We want to access different data sources and so on, test a couple of hypotheses, see if that works, and then move quickly to production, because that helps us to answer business questions quickly, serve customers quickly, get feedback, all those good things. Then, once we have a couple models in production, we want to make sure that they are right and correct, so the way they are working the way we intended. So we need to have a way to monitor them regularly and easily. We also want to have, there are a lot of things which are somewhat similar across the countries, even within the same country across different use cases. We want to have the reusable templates, modules, which then we can share and do it, so then we can move to production much quicker and reach again customer much quicker. Security is core for us as a company. So we have a lot of customer data, but we also want to make sure that it's secure and access is allowed only to the ones who can and should be looking at it. And finally, we look at this as infrastructure as a code. What it means, that allows us version control. So if any changes happen, we can easily revert. And it also allows us, if at some point as a country we want to diverge a little bit, maybe do some different changes here and there to serve business needs quicker. So then we can do that, and then later on we can merge back to the main branch and have a common solution which has multiple functionalities. So that's the example of checklist which we would share with Josefine, so then for us to move forward and build the solution to solve problems.
I hope we have achieved it. There's always more to that. But then even with this, I think, Justina, we've talked a lot about this. I think it's about still not underestimating the change aspect of this, right? So from your perspective, I think this is something we say we should invest equally into this, which is something we often fail to consider. But you want to share your perspective on how important the change management and the change back aspect is as well?
Yes. Oh, sorry. Yes. We talked a lot about technology. We talked about the use cases, about the data, how we build the use cases into the data, what technology we need, and so on. But let me share one example. What sometimes gets forgotten. Now, a while ago, companies were moving to sustainability. So they wanted to recycle more. They wanted to recycle more. So how could they do that? What they thought, okay, we need the bins. We need them to look nice so that people would like to use it. We need to put tags on the place so that people would know what to put inside it, where the paper goes, where the glass, and so on. So they done that. They put all those bins in very convenient places. So then again, it would be easy to use. No one need to look for it, and so on. But no one was recycling. No one was putting things into the bins. Why? Why do you think it was like this? And actually, it happened like that because they forgot to notify employees that actually want to start recycling, that they should use these bins for recycling, that's a good thing to do, and we should change our habits the way we've done in the past, and now it's new and better way forward. And that's what happens usually with technological projects too. We build amazing solutions, and we forget that people side. We forget that those solutions are usually used by people which have certain behaviors, we had certain habits, and we need to work on changing those habits too. So when we work here, the Vintelia on the technical projects, like finding the best offer for our customer and sending the right message for him, we think from two perspectives. One of them, which is technical project, so all the delivery, what we talked about, but also how do we change, how do we do behavioral change? What do we need to do so that that solution would actually be used and would be used in the long term to create long-term success? And here again, we are very structured people. So we have a structured approach to change management, how we move forward for this. And I really, really liked it when I learned about this and started using it. So it's ADCAR. So it starts with awareness, basically talking about what we do and making sure that someone or everyone is aware. Then it starts creating desire, so showing how good it is, how much benefit it will bring, so that people would start wanting to change. Then it goes to knowledge side. So once you want to change, you someone don't know how to do that. So we do trainings, knowledge sharing sessions, so that to make sure that everyone who is willing and want to do that can actually do that. And then we go to the abilities. So then again, training and skill set, because some people may know how to do it, but may not know right skills to do it again. So we go through training problems. And finally, reinforcement. That means we've done for this once, and it might be that we need to do that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, or until everyone's kind of aware and are willing to change, have the right skill set, and kind of is reminded about the thing. Not over and over again, but regularly, that they would not forget. And then we can see long-term success and then the change to happen, technology used, and then we can move forward. Is that it? No, actually, we have one more step left to finish the project. So to see if it's successful and should we finish it or should we move forward. So frameworks, there was a lot of frameworks here, but it helps to move through complexity of data. So we look at the measurement from two angles. One of them is technical angle. So we look is the data product. We look at the data product quality. Is the data correct? Is the model correct? And we have different measurements how to measure it, how to do that. Actual versus fitted, out of sample testing, cross validation, all kind of unit tests, and all those things. Then the other is equally important side is to look if that data product model which we created actually adds business value. How do we do that? We do through establishing the base and seeing how much additional value added new algorithm, how much on top we created by introducing maybe new recommendation engine or changing our media strategy. So how much additional revenue that created, and then we see if it's worth to continue or do we need to tweak something and change it. And that's those two things help us to prioritize where to focus our effort in which area and kind of move forward. So
So what gets measured gets done. So we need to think about how we measure things, right? So when I'm thinking a little bit about, in terms of wrapping up here, we've talked a lot about, the enablers, the technologies, and things like that. So when we think about the future, like there are both kind of good and bad things. And when I think about the future of analytics, however, going back to the introduction around more and everything that's happened, I think that it's very, very bright. And I wanted to share just one of the examples of an amazingly cool project that I think is out there right now, which is DALL-E 2. And I don't think, if you haven't tried it, I think you should, and you can create an account. And this is really, it's a text, it generates art based on a text description then. And these are just two of my favorite examples of like teddy bears mixing sparkling chemicals, and then an astronaut launching in a tropical resort. And you can really create amazing things in just seconds. So it's a really, really cool thing to try. And it will, of course, revolutionize the art and photography business when you can this quickly generate new images and compose new things. And I've already seen a lot of art created in the AI section that I think is beautiful. So very interesting to see how this will develop. But it is also kind of problematic, right? Because we're basing the algorithms on the data sets that we have, right? And of course, that's not wrong, but it might not be what we want. So analytics and AI will augment and amplify what you have in your data set. So looking at this one, I'll go back to that one, previous one. So it will be, if you search for like an air hostess or a nurse, you will most likely get women. You might get Asian women. If you look for construction workers or CEOs, you will get a lot of white males, which is not wrong, because in the Fortune 500 companies, they are like 90% of the population. So, but it is problematic, and it continues in so many areas, like everything from racial discrimination, and very seldom this is the intention, right? it's not the intention of the analytics and AI to be this, but it does augment and things that we cannot always foresee. So this, I think, is a really important call for action to work even more with ethical AI and to work on the diversity that you have in your teams and the teams that are working with building advanced analytics, because it will become increasingly important. So I think that the future could be, we're still waiting for the flying cars, by the way, so we hope they're coming soon. So what about the future from the Lithuanian perspective? What's coming up here, Justina?
So listening about this, so we have ambitious plans to understand our customers better, to leverage AI, machine learning, and all different sources. So, and make use the platforms which we have. So from my side, I'm just thinking which path it's gonna be. Is it straight point from A to B, or is it more like squiggly line from A to B? I guess it will be somewhere in the middle. Yeah, so I'm just really hoping that by using these steps and lessons which we learned through up to now, we can make it more straight. Maybe there were only a couple of turns and comebacks.
Smaller turns, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think this is our wrap up a little bit, like analytics, the way we work, the Telia way. We brought out kind of our secret sauce, and Justina has told you about the way of working in Lithuania and what we think about the future, because we think it's really in our hands, right? We think that it's up to us to decide what the future will be, and we think that analytics can be used to do much better in the future if we're cautious with it.
Completely agree.
And I also think that we would like to encourage you to visit our virtual breakout rooms and also to connect with me and Justina, because that's the reason that we're here, right? We want to, now we can't see you, which is unfortunate. So hopefully we have been able to see us, but please connect with us as well. We'd be happy to continue the discussions on some of these topics.
And we have a session later on about how to use data science in business, analytics in business. We have a couple of sessions tomorrow about data best practices and project best practices within the data space. So please come join us and ask questions if you have. We'll be happy to share.
Justina, Josefine, thank you so much for that really thorough and very interesting presentation. We just have 3 minutes left, so I think we can just do one question if you're okay with that. And there is a question here from Verislav, and he says, Justina, very useful infrastructure as a service blocks. Could you recommend some concrete framework tool standards which you use for automation of data science processes and experiments? For example, such as Plant UML for infrastructure as a code.
So I'm thinking we are following Amazon setup. And if you go to their website, they have a couple of really good blog posts about the setup and how it works. So I would really suggest to reading it and then seeing how it's done.
Great. There is another question here from Alexandra. A question to Justina regarding measure data product quality. What the measure of data product quality? What tools do you recommend?
For data quality, that's again. So I would think, first of all, more not from the toolkit perspective, because the toolkit which we use, SQL, Python, PySpark, so kind of to work with the data, but it's more important is to understand how data is generated, how it should look in terms of what it's generating, and then to implement, I don't want to see rules, but checks, tests, which allows us then to make sure are they right, are they correct or not. So it all comes back usually to the business, because I've seen a couple of examples. Once you don't understand how the data is generated and how it works, you make wrong assumptions, and then the models goes just wrong because we interpret the data in incorrect way.
Great. I think we have time for the last question here from Jan. How do you manage costs of the separated environments for your teams?
That's a good question, and that's I'm actually quite happy not to be needed to think about, because we have a common Telia site to manage this and look after that site.
Yeah. So we manage all the cost, and I think it's important though, because it's really moving from like a different type of operations that we are doing on our on-prem stacks, where we are kind of guessing capacity. Now we are guessing costs together with our country. So we call it FinOps, financial operations. It's almost like a special branch that I have in my team, where we monitor and maintain and set up alerts and alarms and do a lot of training with the teams as well. But it's like a balance of, we want people to use the technology, but we also want to build things in cost efficient ways as well. So it's a balance of not scaring people not to use the platforms as well.
Justina, Josefine, thank you so much for your presentation today. I personally really enjoyed it, and I can see we had a huge audience here, and it just kept growing throughout the talk. So that's a good sign that everyone else enjoyed it too. All the best with your journey, and thank you for sharing your work today with us. Really valuable. So everyone, please join me in a virtual round of applause for the two of them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.
You're welcome, and we will be back in 5 minutes with the next session.